You will never guess what may be ruining your inner growth, your self-healing, and your spiritual journey. I know that many of you have been taught that the spiritual journey, the sense of self-growth and self-realization, is one that is paved with this sort of rainbow bridge. It's one associated with this nice guy attitude, this positive upkeep to your mentality. But did you know this is what could be ruining your progress? Have you ever met a person or ever was a person that was just incredibly nice, incredibly giving, compassionate, understanding, and just all around sort of like positive, but only ever attracted selfish people that only took advantage or that was only interested in their own gain? If you knew this person long term, or were this person, or are this person, since you clicked onto the video, I assume you may be. Did you ever figure out why it was that you just kept attracting what some may call narcissists? There are some people in the world that may say that you were attracting what you wanted. You were being this selfless, just compassionate and giving person, continually allowing yourself to offer what you have to anyone in need. In my experience, this is not the case. The truth is, this is as far as I've been able to understand it, is that you attract what you are. You do not attract what you want. You embody the energy in which you are wishing to bring into your life. So you do not get what you want, you get what you are. Now, this understanding does depend on where this selflessness is coming from. In Indian culture, there are groups of monks that receive and give selflessly, almost as if they're not really there. They're just the act of giving and then receiving to just give out some more. The reality is that they embody this sort of emptiness. That selflessness is a lack of identity. That sort of action is one taken through a lens that most people cannot encompass unless you are willing to give up everything in your life. It's mostly a devotional lifestyle, one in which you are given food by the community around you, and then you also give out that food as well as take on other community services as your acts of life, but you do so selflessly. So many monks, especially in India, will give food and nurture those that have leprosy. The reality is that they are risking their lives in order to give these people who are shunned from society in the general sense a sense of compassion, humanity, a sense of survival. This act is of a pure sense of unidentified selflessness. Now, like I said, this is something that is incredibly difficult to embody, and it is not one that attracts narcissists. The acts of selflessness that do attract narcissists are ones in which that are carried on by wounded people. You are not embodying that sense of selflessness from an egoless perspective. You are doing so from a need to do something, to receive something, accomplish something, or be acknowledged for something. The act in which you are embodying is one of control. It is not the most conscious sense of control, but it is one that embodies a similar wound that many narcissists have. What narcissists do, however, in that different sense of control, is to do so consciously. The act of selflessness in order to achieve something is done through an unconscious sense of control. When monks do it, it's from a lack of ego. So it forgoes that purpose. It's just to do something in the desire of pleasing their God, or the desire of passing on that sort of karma, without a desire to really change anything, but just a desire to carry on a specific energy and then pass that energy onward to those that are without. That is something that is influenced by philosophies, influenced by deep meditative thoughts and perspectives. It is not done so with a desire for a result. If you have been wounded by a narcissist on top of the wounds you've already had in your life, I can tell you that it will be difficult for you to acknowledge that the narcissist that you had in your life, the person that just took advantage, was someone that was also wounded. I'm sure that they may have played it off as if they were wounded, and then made that the pinnacle point of how they would be able to get what they got from you. The reality is that yes, a lot of people are born that way, but there are a lot of people that were not. There are a lot of people that are truly wounded, even if they use it as a vantage point to manipulate and get what they want. Now, the reason why you both may be wounded, like I said, may be wounded, not every narcissist is wounded, but act differently, is because of the unbalanced responsibility that you either put on your own shoulders or on the world around you. In the lives of those that take on that giving mentality is one in which they have taken that sort of responsibility of the world on their shoulders, is the one in which they are overwhelming themselves with the decisions of others, and in doing so making it their responsibility to either fix everyone in the room, to make sure everyone's okay, to continually maintain a sense of balance externally while entirely ignoring the internal one. In doing so, you do become a people pleaser. You do end up being a person that will self sacrifice because you don't have that priority of the internal balance compared to the external balance. Now, this circumstance can come about in many ways, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. For those wounded narcissists, the circumstance was reversed. They entirely gave up responsibility of their wound and blamed the world. They took on that kind of phrase, that mentality of, it's not my fault, the world made me this way. And so they blame the world for the problems. And in doing so, they never are held accountable in their own mind for the actions they take, because that's just the way the world is, quote unquote. So this is what happens when you try to be a good source of karma in the world. You could have all of the best intentions in mind, but if you try to, like I said, carry on the good karma and pass it on to the world, but you do so unhealed, you will pass on that karma unbalanced. You will develop a sort of dependency. You will burn out due to the unbalanced exchanges of energy. You will always try to overexert yourself and then never feel good enough because you couldn't change someone. Or you will outright let someone take advantage of you because it's altruistic, because it reciprocates a sort of positive feeling that you were lacking when you were a kid, when you were wounded. So in truth, it may not seem like it to you because in your perspective, you were only trying to make sure no one else felt like you did when you were a kid, when you were taken advantage of, when you lost whatever part of you that needed protection, that needed something from those that should have been looking out for you. And in truth, you are looking for a sense of approval. You are looking for an energy, or you're looking for a sense of attention, something that confirms and settles down that worried, that I gotta fix it, that part of you that always values that outside balance more than the inside balance. As soon as you can find someone, which will usually be a narcissist because they can and they will, because they know how to manipulate you to silencing that voice, to subsiding and giving into that feeling of comfort that comes with settling the ache of that inner child, trying to, like I said, make sure the world does not feel the way that it did when it was wounded. Now, in my life, the way that my wounds were established were due to a certain set of unhealthy conflicts in relationship between my mother and father. Both of them made it a point in my life to be good parents, but they were not necessarily very good spouses. The reality was that they never tried to take their anger out on me. They never did, really. But the circumstance was that I was a very sensitive child when I was in my adolescence. And both my parents were very strong-willed and stubborn, uh, very expressive, but neither of them knew how to manage their emotions in ways that they could communicate in a healthy way when things just got too heated. And in living with parents like that, the circumstances were ones in which I developed a behavior to try to prevent them from arguing. I understood that the responsibility wasn't mine, but I still had this need to stop them from fighting. It's just a natural mentality for children to take on when they see that sort of conflict. And over time, it really didn't go away. It wasn't a mentality that I really paid attention to. So I could say that it didn't really go away, but it wasn't necessarily the most apparent personality trait of my life. I would say that my people pleasing mentalities developed after high school, matter of fact, when I was going through a lot of challenges stepping into my role as an adult. My senses of identity not were not the strongest, and the people that I surrounded myself with continually just took advantage of that, and in doing so, really ended up shattering a lot of my inner perspectives, a lot of who I was, as well as a lot of who I was growing up to be. And in doing so, through multiple betrayals, manipulations, and emotional abuse, the circumstances developed in a way where I just became a people pleaser. It's almost as if like I was get to realize my childhood wounds, and in being ignorant and in not really wanting to know those parts of myself, it allowed me to be vulnerable to those that already did through their own senses of understanding. And so I eventually developed mentalities that were based on those childhood wounds. Those childhood wounds could have easily been healed if I only ever acknowledged them before I allowed these people into my life. The circumstances weren't that bad to begin with, but they only ever got worse because I did not pay attention to myself. I did not learn to listen to myself. I did not learn to accept myself. And so I developed, like I said, those behaviors, and they became habits, and then they became my lifestyle. I would continually assess circumstances outside of myself. I would develop that sort of empathy, but on that higher scale, to the point where I would be analyzing everyone and making sure everyone's okay with me, making sure everyone's okay in their own circumstance, and no one's feeling left out. The circumstances would be draining, would be exhausting, but I would feel this sort of accomplishment. I feel like this sort of just like, I did a good thing today. In the circumstances in which it's my responsibility to do that is to be determined by my self-realized limitations, my self-accepted limitations. When I was that people pleaser, I made it a point to ignore my limitations, to ignore my comfort zones, to ignore how my internal balances were. And in doing so, I definitely let other people take advantage because I had that mentality where it was just a way for others to feel better. It was a way for others to just like feel included and feel uplifted. Like I would self-sacrifice. I would self-deprecate. I would let people just walk all over me just because they're having a bad day, or because maybe they don't have that sense of compassion to others. But it is something that they can learn, and they can learn it from me by example. These were the mentalities that I held on to in order to keep this sort of this unhealthy energy exchange, one that silenced those voices, those aches and pains that drew me to people that were going through the circumstances they were going through, but ones that I identified with. And in being drawn toward them, I attracted more. I attracted more people that were willing to take advantage. I attracted more people that were willing to see what they can get away with. And like I said, doing so only was in truth to fulfill this sort of internal need. This need that could have easily been satisfied and healed if I only paid attention to my inner self. If I only let myself realize that I am responsible as an adult for myself. It isn't anyone's role in the world to take away somebody else's chance to grow, somebody else's chance to understand themselves, somebody else's chance to experience something just because it's uncomfortable, just because it's, in my eyes, painful. in my eyes, something that I identified as unfair. So in those circumstances, I made it a point, to the point of self-sacrifice, to the point of exhaustion, to the point of losing my relationship to myself. And in repeating your actions, you only ever reinforce the reciprocated results. So although I was gaining more of this, I am doing the good thing, I'm doing the right thing in the world today, I was still ignoring and growing farther and farther of who I really am, who I really was. And in truth, it was my inner child trying to stop my parents from fighting in a way. It was my inner child trying to make sure that others didn't feel the way that I did when I was that age. And in doing so, it did allow me to create a sense of control. That sense of control was over myself. It was as if I were trying to puppeteer others so that I could put myself in check in a way. It was as if I could make them feel good, I can make myself feel good. And in circumstances that can be compassionate and that could be a healthy mentality, but when it comes at the price of your own inner self, when you no longer can be in a room by yourself, when you can no longer enjoy your own company, when you can no longer actually hear and pay attention to that inner balance, to the point where you crash and burn, to the point where your world falls apart and you don't know why, because you've been doing so many good things, but you never did them for yourself. You only, well, I only did them to others to subside myself. And that sense of control developed a codependency, one that led me to narcissistic relationships, ones that led me to codependent relationships. And this is actually what happens in many people's lives when they find themselves surrounded by narcissists, when they find themselves in a world that is just so unfair and not knowing why. When in reality, you have been the most unfair to yourself amongst anyone else. And this is what is qualified, that sort of codependency, that sort of reciprocation, that sort of a subsidence of myself while doing good for others is an energy exchange. It is a manipulative one that is similar to narcissists. It's almost like the opposite side of the same coin. The energy exchange is still very much the same, even if the way you go about it is entirely different. The circumstances manifest for you, they are attracted to you because you embody that manipulative energy exchange. Even if it is for some sort of altruistic mentality, some sort of inner voice that says, I'm going to make the world better today, it is still done from that perspective of that unhealed person, which is very similar to narcissists that are unhealed. The circumstances are, just like I said, flipped, but they are two sides of the same coin. That is why you attract narcissists into your life. If you end up being a people pleaser, if you end up trying to help the world without healing and without helping yourself. That sense of control that I just talked about is one that cannot exist in healthy relationships. You can't dominate someone, you can't manipulate someone consciously, even subconsciously, and actually really love them. You can't be in a healthy relationship, you can't control someone and respect them. You can't be better or be less than someone and respect them. They can be better than you at certain things, but for them to be better than you as a human being, or for you to be less as a human being, or for them to be less than you as a human being, vice versa. Neither of those four circumstances can take place within a healthy relationship because there is no respect. Respect is one of the foundations of every healthy relationship. When you become a people pleaser, when you become that nice guy or that all light and love girl, you end up killing the genuine connection you can have to someone, because you cannot connect if you do not respect that person, and if that person does not respect you. Hello, I had to come back and reshoot some of this next footage. I'm sure you realize my haircut's a bit different, but the content is still the same. I just had really, really bad framing of the previous video, so like half my face was cut off, Really couldn't see what I was. You really couldn't see the passion in my eyes as I was telling you about why you may or may not be attracting narcissists into your life. In any case, the next footage will be the same. So I'm just going to go right into it. So don't mind the haircut. 3, 2, 1, action. Now, I keep talking about this specific sort of wound, the two sides of the same coin that both narcissists and people pleasers, right, self-sacrificing self-givers, and nice guys, that is one and the same, is one that is based on worthiness. Like I said, the circumstances in which this wound was manifested can be sometimes similar, but the true source of it is actually very much the same, even if you don't necessarily react the same. That aspect of unworthiness in either world, whether you take on that responsibility of the world on your shoulders or decide to blame it, is the circumstances in which you were so devalued. Your emotions were so dismissed. Your state of mind or status in someone's eyes was just so belittled that there was a circumstance in which you lost that sense of who you are, in which you see the world caring about you, and or a sense of who you are in which you think you matter in the world, which is why you continually work to receive validation from that outside world. You continually look to receive some sort of energy exchange to subside that sense, that part of you that just feels that sort of pain that tells you you're not worth it. This is one, like I said, one that narcissists fulfill by maintaining a sense of authority and control, power over someone or a group of people, in order for them to continually remind themselves, yes, I matter, yes, these people care about me, yes, these people need me. And the circumstance can be flipped for those that are self-sacrificers. They go about proving that they can be useful, they can be cared for, they are deserving of love because someone needs love, someone needs a second chance, someone needs me. And so I'm willing to go above and beyond to make sure that they receive that so I can get what I need. I can get that feeling of that lack, that worthlessness subsided. The idea of they need me being something that both people in this circumstance thrive on. When in truth, both are worthy of love. They are worth what every other human in this world is worth, something that is entirely priceless. For those of you that have spent too much time taking on more responsibility than you should have, I need to tell you that you need to let go of that weight of the world you've been carrying. Okay? And for those of you that know you need healing, I need to tell you now is the time for you to look inwards, to find your answers, to find out why it is you are following through on those sorts of energetic exchanges and patterns. It's so wildly important that you do that sort of work and learn to carry yourself and create boundaries. I can tell you, no one in the world needs you more than you need yourself. So, doing the hard work, recognizing yourself, and understanding what habits are positive and negative means that you can no longer allow yourself to follow those ideas of, I can fix them, but they need me. Even they just need someone to love. In truth, these are reflections of what you need and want in life. You want someone to love. You want someone to recognize in you that there isn't anything inherently wrong with you and that you can be fixed. And this means that you may believe that you need someone to be happy. When you do this hard work, this is when you allow your codependencies to drift off, and you allow yourself to find comfort within your self-set boundaries. When you do so, you actually begin to inform your subconscious of your worthiness. And you show it that you are worth the time and the effort, the absolute struggle it takes to heal and be your authentic self. And then that becomes your filter. your standard in life. Setting that sort of standard is something that will also teach your subconscious that you don't necessarily need to do anything to earn your own love. You teach yourself that the love you deserve is defined by who you are, not by what you can offer someone. And this begins to short circuit that unhealthy energy exchange that I explained before. The reason these moves are so important to take is because there will come a time in your life when you will go into a room and you will not be respected, even when you respect yourself. And these moments are key because they define whether or not you attract or repel those people that are willing to take advantage of you in life, those people that many call narcissists. Now, the key move to make when you find someone that doesn't respect you, no matter what you do or what you say, what you need to do is choose yourself. You need to be able to look inward and find what it is your inner child may still be missing. When you're in those modes of self love, self respect, and self determined boundaries, it's absolutely of the highest importance to make sure you maintain them. Those moments in which you make that difference for yourself and you ask yourself what you need. Do you need reassurance? Do you feel like you need vengeance? Do you feel like you need to get away? Do you feel like you need to be protected? These emotions are absolutely normal and healthy, but it is what you do when you recognize these things within yourself that matters most. When you feel that sort of discomfort, whatever and for whatever reason it may be, it is wildly important that you do not shame yourself for the emotions you feel. Because in doing so, you then block yourself off. In accepting yourself, no matter what the reaction is, you begin to reconnect. You begin to rebuild that bridge to yourself and are then able to begin to heal and then grow that part of yourself into the adult you want to be. In reintegrating these emotions by acknowledging them first and taking possibly 30 to 90 seconds to just analyze your internal world and then realizing what actions that you can take as an adult that would be the healthiest for you, that would be the most beneficial, not what would take away that bad feeling, not what would make you feel good necessarily. A lot of times people will have gut reactions of just wanting to lash out. Those moments in which you acknowledge those feelings but make that adult decision to do something better, more productive for yourself is the moment that you really begin to make those healthy moves. And in those moments that you make those moves for yourself, for your best self, are the moments that you just break off those unhealthy energy exchanges and those unhealthy cycles. And you begin to attract what you truly deserve in life. Because in choosing yourself, you are proving to your subconscious and to the universe that you are already worthy of what you really need. And in doing so, you are honoring your inner voice, your inner child, and you are reinforcing your value system that you created before, understanding that you are worthy of that love. Because it's not what you do, it is who you are. And in doing so, it becomes a full circle sense of growth and healing. And this new standard then begins to create that sort of safe space. And these moves you make for your higher self, for your best self, are ones that begin to create a space where you begin to learn to trust yourself and begin to gain that sort of healthy relation to yourself and to the world around you. Now, this one is for those of you that are empaths and that have realized that sort of skill that has developed over the time that you have spent analyzing everyone else before yourself and then taking in their emotions to understand what it is that they need instead of what you need. I believe that empaths, their purpose isn't necessarily to go out and save the world and fix everyone. That is an unhealthy sort of life goal to try to attain. It's one, like I said, that is based on the idea of gaining control of things outside of yourself so that you can feel like you accomplished something, so you can feel good about yourself. In the circumstances of the universe, it is a situation in which you can help people heal themselves, but it is not a circumstance in which you can heal people. You can't make them better. You can only allow them that sort of space to do so. And that is what I believe the purpose of empaths are. It's to be able to analyze that sort of emotional ocean in their lives of everyone around them and in rooms that they feel comfortable and confident in, to make that space, create that space, understanding, like I said, that sort of chaoticness of the world around them, and then being able to bring a safe space, their own safe space from within into the world around them. Within this sort of safe space that they've created for themselves, empaths doing so can allow themselves to awaken, to understand themselves, like I said, to realize the true narrative that they're following in their mind, in their life, and the true reasons behind those stories. And in resolving the reasons and understanding the purpose of these stories, you then allow that safe space to be one that is a healing one for yourself. It is where you begin to master yourself. And by learning this skill and then learning to create that sort of safe space for others, is a circumstance in where they can feel safe enough to be their whole and authentic self, unapologetically, where they get to go ahead and understand themselves in that space where they will awaken themselves, being aware of themselves, feeling safe enough to do so, and then being able to share these ideas, share these thoughts back and forth. And then they begin to learn about the changes they need to make in life. But they do so feeling this sort of comfort, this sort of safety. I think that's what the empath is supposed to do, is to allow that safe space to be felt, to be able to be someone that can master their own so well that they can allow it to be shared by others in circumstances, like I said, that they feel comfortable and confident in, is one in which you allow people space to wake up. So I hope this helps, and I hope I was able to break down the moves you can make to make this positive and healthy difference to a full circle sense of your healing and self-growth. And I hope that when the circumstances arise in which you feel that nagging discomfort, and when you are confronted with an unfortunate trespass on your boundaries, I hope that you choose you and you begin to grow that safe space. I hope this helps, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for the likes and subscribes and the comments. Deuces.